Welcome back to the land of the seven suns, with me as your host, Fishy Plant Man. Okay, I am going to decide that I like one of these intros eventually. Yeah, it's just an intro. Anyway, getting to the filter, because this filter's really the point of the video. I think I'm going to title it something close to Did Cleaning the Lift Tube. No. Anyway, it's going to be along the lines of whether or not cleaning the lift tube, that part right there, the lift tube, kind of self-explanatory, I know, whether or not cleaning that was too much. And for general fish keeping purposes, no, you can't clean the lift tube and call it a day. You need to clean the filtration right there. That sponge or whatever your filtration is, you need to clean out the filtration for general fish keeping. But that's not what this filter is for. I've talked about it really quite a lot lately. And I'm trying to get that last stage. Really? Go there behind the frog's foot. Trying to get that last stage of nutrifying bacteria to take place in the tank. So I want this filter to run slow. And as you can see, yeah, it's not really coming through that media pouch there. It's kind of just going around it and overflowing every place it can. Basically over the safeties there, so it doesn't overflow onto the floor. Overflows into the tank, overflows over into there. You can see it by the sponge. It's basically just going around the sponge because the sponge is clogged all up. I didn't clean the sponge, the box, anything, because I'm interested in that non-oxygen loving bacteria, I'm going to call it. But I did have to clean the lift tube because it had completely stopped. And once it completely stops, you're not filtering anything. So I cleaned the lift tube, put it back in, and even though it's going around the filter media, I've got more filtration than I thought that it was capable of these days. So, did I clean the lift tube too well? Well, for my purposes, in trying to get that low oxygen environment, I'm going to say yes. I've got too much flow now. So, yeah, there's that. But it's also kind of necessary. And, if I screwed everything up, how was screwing everything up necessary? I'll put the camera down here on the fish so there's something a little better to look at. Although it looks like my air stone's got something growing on it. Well, it occurred to me that kind of like the debate, there seems to be an active debate going on right now. Hang on, I got a cough. Pardon me. Oh, sorry. I should probably edit that out, but probably won't because I haven't figured out the editing for this phone yet. Yeah, there's an active debate in the orchid world, at least on a other channel, somebody else's channel, that charcoal in like orchid plants, is it doing anything? Is it worth using? Is it doing harm? Should we stop using it? Because, well, apparently an orchid person has realized, which, not hard, but somebody in the orchid world has thought about the fact that carbon eventually fills up. So if it's taking out odors or, some impurities that we don't want in our plants, but it gets full, then what is it doing? And how fast does it fill up? And, all that. So once it's full, then what? Well, my thought on that is once it's full, well, in a fish tank, once it's full, it apparently starts releasing things that it absorbed back into the water. Well, if that's what it does in a fish tank, that's what it's going to do in a flower pot, theoretically. But it's not just going to dump it all back in at once. So I don't think it's doing harm, necessarily even in a fish tank. Whether or not it calls hole in the head or hit, that's strictly in fish. But I don't know that it does harm in the fish tank. I don't know if it does harm in a flower pot. For me personally, when it comes to carbon in either application, I don't find that it does enough good to make it worth purchasing. In the fish world, one of the better arguments I've heard is carbon is great at taking out medication. You've treated your fish for ick or lateral line disease or something, cramped fin. Now you want to get the medicine out. Put carbon in the filter. It'll take out the medicine. Yeah, won't a water change take out the medicine as well? If not more effectively? So, in a flower pot, does carbon do enough? I've got the phone at a funny... Anyway, that's kind of weird. Forgive the angle. I'm holding this with my hand. And apparently I'm holding it at an angle and not even realizing it. Yeah. I just don't... I don't see it. I don't see... If it doesn't really intrigue me for my fish tank, why would I buy it for my flowers? Which... a lot of my orchids... Here's an orchid taking a swim and another one, putting its toes in the water. I'm moving away from flower pots altogether. So, I can't put charcoal in there. So there's that debate, both in the fish world and the plant world now. Does carbon have a place in these hobbies? I don't think it does. Not enough to make it worth bothering with. So, getting back to my point in the filter with that third bacteria, is having a filter running really slowly, is it worth it? Maybe have a filter, filter in the water like you normally do in a fish tank, and then another one that's just running really slow, mostly clogged because you want that third group of bacteria. Is it worth it? Well, for me, it would only be worth it if I can see an improvement. In this case, reduce nitrates. Well, so far I'm not seeing any nitrates anyway in either tank. Okay, I think it was the last video, I did a test. Nitrates were good. Everything was good, but we're talking about nitrates in this video. Nitrates were good in this tank, but nitrates were also good in this tank. Let me back up so I can get the full tank. There we go. Nitrates were also good in this tank, which doesn't have a filter at all. It's got about the same amount of fish right now. Actually, I think it's got a couple more. We'll say 4 autosinkless because I still haven't seen the 5th one. Not that's not in there. And 4, so that's 8 fish in this tank. And I think it's 7 or 8 fish in that tank because I've lost a couple. I think they're just starting to get old. So basically the same fish load. Now granted, this tank is 5 times bigger. It's 55. Let's just call it 5 times bigger than a 10. 55. Granted, the tank's a lot bigger, about the same amount of fish, but the tank's a lot bigger. The nitrates pretty close to the same in both tanks. That one's got more flowers. This one's got more water volume. That one's got a filter. This one doesn't. It's not an exact comparison. But if there's no nitrates in this tank, why should I believe that it's the filter keeping the nitrates down in this tank? Maybe it's the terracotta I just put in. Well, no, I really don't think that's been in there long enough to make any difference anyway. Well, I cleaned the lift tube and it's moving a lot more water now. I'm sure that the water's got a fair amount of oxygen in it, moving that fast. So, if I've messed everything up, and there's, just too much flow, and it's messed up that group of bacteria that's keeping the nitrates down, nitrates will rise in this tank, won't they? If the nitrates rise and I see some nitrates, then I'm going to say, okay, it's worth it to let it clog up again and slow down, because the rest of the cycle is being taken care of by just having low fish numbers. I mean, these are very lightly stocked tanks. Even with 9 neon tetras in this tank, I think just about anybody would say, yeah, you can have more fish in there than that. Not a Pacu or, an Oscar or something. Not even an angelfish. But a few more neon tetras or black tetras or green tetras. That'd probably fit. But I'm working this tank and I'm trying to stay pretty strict with my new inch per gallon rule, which is a whole lot more complicated than just the inch per gallon rule that you're probably familiar with. Because it breaks, and the thing I don't like about that rule is it breaks to the cruel side. You got a 10-inch Oscar. It's not really going to fit in a 10-gallon tank to begin with because it's, 10 inches, it can't really do anything. So there's the example. A 10-inch Oscar in a 10-gallon tank. That is not going to work. Everybody can see that. Just as a thought experiment, you can see a 10-inch fish, Oscar, any fish that's 10 inches is not going to work in a 10-gallon tank. You can see that, like I say, just as a thought experiment, you can work that through. But with my inch per gallon rule, that same 10-inch Oscar, the rule recommends that it goes in a tank that's over 1,000 gallons. So it goes from cruel, a 10-inch fish in a 10-inch tank, to heavenly, because now that 10-inch Oscar is in a tank that is over 1,000 gallons. I think it's, 1,500 gallons or something like that. That's way too much water now. But way too much is better than way too little. So, I'm going to monitor, probably tomorrow, do a water test and see if the nitrates start to climb. And if I see some nitrates, I will actually be happy. For one, it'll mean running this filter at a low speed, all clogged up the way it's not meant to run, can actually house this bacteria, allow it to thrive, and make, I got a cough again, I'm sorry, make fish keeping just that much easier. As a matter of fact, I think I'll even do some watering from the other tank. So we're going to basically stop water changes outside of evaporation. Sorry, that's the frog's toes. There, the frog. Yeah. I think I'll kind of make it a fair test. I can water the plants from that tank. It's got no quote-unquote fertilizer in it. But for a month or so, the plants will pick up from where they left off if I just, go back to it when the experiment's done. So, if I start seeing nitrates in this tank, I'll be overjoyed. Because it'll mean that running one of these filters at 90% clogged, basically, actually works. That's what that'll mean. I said I was going to film the fish, so you don't have to just look at an ugly filter the whole time. That's what that'll mean. The other side of it is because I'll be monitoring. If the nitrates start building up, I can't just clog the filter and bring the cycle back if it works. But is all I need to do is manage the nitrates with water changes, like every fish keeper knows how to do. So, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at the time. 20 minutes, oh goodness. I've been rambling, haven't I? So that's what I'm going to do is monitor and see if I can get some nitrates. Later today, I'll take the plants out because they will have had their drink. I don't understand. I've got this plant up here, which I still haven't watered. It's doing okay. Oops, that was quick. These two still need to go in and out of the water. Like I say, they're in there now. One is splashing its toes and legs in the water. The other one's swimming. To be jokingly about it. So yeah, but that one hasn't been. Yet, the roots, at least until you get up to where they're alive, look dead. Okay, that one in the water, it's hanging on. But as soon as it comes out of the water, dead. All the way up to, yeah, somewhere in there, it comes back to life. But yet it's getting enough water past that dead area that it doesn't seem to need to go into the water. So, I'm just not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm going to keep an eye on the plant, though. So, that is that. Did cleaning that lift tube, kill that, first of all, was it in there? Was it doing anything? And second, did adding the flow kill it off? So now I'm going to see a nitrate spike. We shall see. So yeah, 22 minutes to ask that question. Did increasing the water flow ruin the cycle? I guess we're about to find out, aren't we? Talk to you next time.